5, 6, 7, 8. Fight.
Fight.
I
think that's how the last time we used fight as our alignment word, we definitely went fight.
Yeah.
Little deja vu.
Emo fighting.
Oh, I'm really excited for this episode. Okay, here we go. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Gilmore to Say with Tara and Haley. I'm Tara. This is Haley. Hi, Haley.
Hi, Tara.
It's
matching day.
It's matching day. I'm very excited that, well, it's almost May. It's not quite May yet, right?
Yeah.
We're
about
2
days
to start
till
May. 2 days till May. A little rhyme.
On Gilmore to Say.
On Gilmore to Say. Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited because April showers bring Mayflowers and Mayflowers bring pilgrims.
Oh my gosh, where did you, that's so clever.
That's something I learned recently.
Who taught you that? Where did you learn that?
A very smart lady taught me that.
Oh, wow. Me brushing my hair behind my ear over my headphone.
I'm just excited. I'm really excited for spring. I can't wait. At this point, I will have come home from New Orleans where we spent Easter. And I know because when we're recording this, we're going in a couple of days. And I'm just so excited for warmth. I know it's going to be hot. It's going to be humid because it's New Orleans.
Yeah.
But like, I'm ready for just some warmth.
It's variant though down here in the South because yesterday it was beautiful, gorgeous day. Sat outside reading. Today, icy, chilly breeze rolling through. So it's like day to day. You never know. Do you know
whenever I hear the word chilly, or especially when you and I are saying the word chilly, I always think of GTC Chili from 2023. Remember we went GTC Chili. We just put that on our calendar. We had no idea what it meant. And we were like, what's a GTC Chili? You don't remember that?
It's where we do it live from Chili's.
I want my baby back.
Wait, speaking of Tara, you want to know what's stuck in my head? It's awful. Bow wow wow yippee yo yippee yay bow wow yippee yo yippee. That's literally just it's just like
Legally Blonde 2, Red, White, and Blonde.
I know, and it literally I don't know where I heard it or what happened, but just all morning my brain has just been bow wow wow yippee yo like on a loop, and I'm reading a book that's like about songs, and like every time a song pops up I try to sing that one, but it's like then it's just with a vengeance it comes back even louder, and I just like so like it's highly likely that while you're talking my brain's just gonna be bow
like,
wow wow yippee yo yippee.
That's incredible.
Yep. I don't know why, but the moment you started singing Baby Back, I was like, maybe that's the new one. Maybe that's gonna
that's the new earworm.
Bow Wow Wow. It's not. It's truly not.
That is so funny.
Thanks, George Clinton.
Thank you so much. Wow.
Yeah.
Hilarious song to have stuck in your head.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that with me. If I just see the curtain come down on your eyes, I know where you're going.
You know where I've gone. You know I'm bow wow. Yeah.
There's so many Legally Blonde 2 references in my life recently between us.
Isn't
like,
strange.
Where does he come from? And then the bow wow wow. But the other day I made a makes me want a hot dog real bad reference. And Brett was like, what's that from? A Cinderella Story? I said, no. Close.
You had the right
no cigar.
Actress.
Right actress. Wrong movie.
Yeah.
Red, White, and Blue. Red, White, and Blue. Red, White, and Blonde. Legally Blonde 2. Red, White, and Blonde.
I love that movie.
I said because Elle Woods comes out, she of course looks like the 4th of July. And then it makes Jennifer Coolidge. Yes, it makes Jennifer Coolidge want a hot dog real bad.
Yeah, I have a friend who she texts us that every year on the 4th of July.
Love that for her. Love that for you.
Yeah, me too.
Anyway, so it's May, and a lot of what we'd love to...
It's not May. We decided that earlier.
Sorry. Yeah.
Come on, Tara.
Tara. It's almost May. And I feel like May, of course, is a month to usher in springtime. Even though spring starts in March, that's always confused me. I'm like, it's not really spring yet. But May feels like we're ushering in spring, but it also feels like we're ushering in a month for moms. And what is Gilmore Girls, if not a show about moms?
Yes, and all the various kinds of moms.
Yeah.
But I know Mother's Day can be hard for a lot of people, but we are focusing in on our favorite moms this month. And or our favorite mother-daughter relationships, if you will, because today's episode is about moms, but it's about the mother-daughter relationship, or it's about two moms. But as much as your daughter can be a mom,
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. It's more about mother-daughters, but both of the ladies we were talking about today are moms.
They are. And I think that that's part of the reason why there is a lot of conflict between the two of them is because they have a lot of differing opinions about how to be a good mom and
mothering. Yes.
Mhm. And I think that that's the root of a lot of their conflict is not only their relationship, but their opinions about how the other parents. And of course, we're talking about Lorelai and Emily Gilmore.
You don't need to be vague, girlies.
Yeah, we don't have to like tease it anymore. They know the episode title. We don't.
Yeah.
But they know it.
At this point.
I am really excited to talk about not just their relationships, but their friction, because that is something that makes this show so yummy and so delicious.
Yeah. Well, when we were talking about May, we were like, oh, let's do a lot of like focusing on the mother-daughter relationships and mothers. We're like, oh, well, let's talk about Emily and Lorelai fighting.
Well, of course.
What says Mother's Day, like fighting with your mom?
Yeah, completely. And I know that we talked about like some of the fights on this show, like generally speaking, and how yummy and delicious they can be. They can also, of course, be really hard
horrifying
to watch. But
weird
yeah,
in the street.
Yeah. But the way that Amy writes fighting on this show.
I was talking about the Chris and Luke fight.
Well, of course. Yeah. We just covered that on Patreon. And boy, oh boy, was it fucking weird.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Weird. But what I really love about the way that she writes Emily and Lorelai's fights is that like the writing is really good and the chemistry between Lauren and Kelly is so good that it just makes it
they are so good.
Easily like two of the best scene partners on this show. And I feel like it's really instantaneous because, you know, we're going to talk about seasons 1 through 3 today. This is a 2-part episode because there's just so many. This show is really
quite a bit, those ladies.
Yeah. I mean, like what would the show be if not for their conflict? And I think that they get it right out the gate. I mean, kicking it off with the pilot of Gilmore Girls, they nailed it right away.
Yes, it was. And I think that that's really hard to do because I told Tara I went through and I watched all of seasons 1 through 3, but like not in full. I was just scrubbing through until I saw
shit.
No, I would just scrub through until I saw Emily's
yesterday.
I haven't slept. No. I was on Netflix just scrubbing through until I saw Emily's face, and then I would stop and watch it. But with the pilot, it's like I don't think that Lauren and Kelly had that like chemistry read because famously the lore goes is they hired Lauren last and they were like, okay, let's get to work. So this fight could have fallen really flat if not for the two of them. But they got it right away. And Amy got it right away.
Yes.
And I feel like listening to the fight just in dialogue, I'm like, okay, this so easily could have gone badly. Like if we had two actresses who just didn't get it and who like weren't, they didn't have that chemistry between the two of them, who didn't understand the relationship. But like, like I started crying immediately.
There were a lot of moments when I was scrubbing through seasons 1 through 3 where I got chills. I got emotional. I was like, oh my God, it makes you feel things. And I wasn't even watching it in the context of the episode. It's not like I needed the episode to get me in the mood, to get me in the headspace. Also, of course, we know this show so well. We've watched it 1,000 times. We're there. We know exactly where we're supposed to be emotionally.
Too. Yeah.
But man, oh man, I didn't even need to be like sitting in the actual tension of the episode to feel all of those feelings. And it was just
especially
so good.
this one. Oh, this first one from the pilot.
For sure.
Because I think it does a really good job too of what it needs to be within the episode. Like even just watching it out of context. Because when we get to the end and she says, you have your precious pride and I have my weekly dinners. And that's it. Because like that's where we're rounding out. That's just the reminder of where we're going for the rest of the series. But it starts off kind of civil is the wrong word, but it's they're kind of avoiding each other at first. And then they get into it. They like real, like, I mean, Lorelai's avoiding her by washing the dishes.
Yeah. I think that a lot of their fights start this way. There's a little bit of a formula to it. One of them is trying to confront the situation. The other is trying to avoid. And they switch on and off, especially in season 1.
I feel like that's most fights anyone has had with their mom.
Totally. But
totally.
But it could, there are some times where it kind of starts soft between the two of them and then it just builds and builds and builds slowly between the two of them. But there is that dynamic between Emily and Lorelai where it's like one of them is avoidant and the other one is just nipping at their feet like a little puppy.
Yeah.
Like they can't, help themselves. And kind of poking the other person until that other person just explodes. And this fight I love because I want to give, of course, Amy, Lauren, Kelly their props, but Leslie Linka Glatter, who directed this, did a really, really fine job, especially with that button at the end, like you said, where she's like, fine, like you have your precious pride and I have my weekly dinners. And the way that they're just like facing off in this angle, like with the way that this was shot, the cinematography was really, really well done, because that is setting everything up for what we're about to experience, not just for the rest of the series, but especially in season 1, because there's a lot of old history. And really drudged up in season 1. And you can tell that a lot of the fire behind Emily especially is her wanting to hash out all of the things that they haven't talked about in 16 years.
And that's actually something I wanted to mention, is because they have so many interactions that have a conflict to them, but sometimes are done with like a humorous nature, or it's just like a quick one-off, that I wouldn't necessarily like classify it into what we're talking about in terms of fights. I think it has to have a heft to it, like kind of like a little bit of an explosive nature, even if it's not both of them that are exploding.
Because I was going to ask you, like, how do we quantify a fight as we move through this? Because we're going to talk about the fights in seasons 1 through 3. And then after each season, kind of pick out which one is the standout for each of us. Not necessarily ranking them, but just like pulling out like which was the quote unquote best, or which was the most impactful fight. But I was really curious, before we really dive too far in, what quantifies a fight between these two women? Because there is always conflict there. And I wrote a lot of things down where I was like, this is kind of like conflict, a little bit of a spat, maybe not a fight though.
Yeah, I think that there's sometimes where they have a tension-filled conversation that doesn't necessarily break into a fight. I think that a lot of the times, like you were saying, it drudges up something old between them, because it's that thing of like a toxic fight usually isn't just about the one thing that you're fighting about. Totally. It's everything that you're mad about comes into play.
Oh, of course.
And I think that's one of the things between the two of them, is like something of the past, something of their tumultuous relationship has to sort of like make itself known within this, even if it's like just vaguely, because that's what they're fighting about most of the time.
Totally.
But I think that if it's not something that like has that emotional weight to it, there's yelling, which usually involves the emotional weight, because there weren't any that I really came across that in going through all of them. There was like some of them that I'm like, this is like so, if someone can be talked down from it, I don't think it's a fight. Like if someone, if Lorelai comes in and she's apologizing and Emily's kind of going at her just a little bit, but they can like simmer it down, I'd say they're beyond the fight. Like if someone can talk some sense into it.
Okay.
If it's just one of them, I wouldn't call it a fight.
Interesting.
I think they kind of both have to have their gloves on a little bit.
Okay. Well, let's go through them. So, of course, we have the pilot, which we just discussed, really sets the tone for their relationship, their dynamic, and of course, like the entire setup of the show so well. It's a very important fight.
Yes.
But where would you say we go next as far as fights go? Because the next thing that I wrote down was, it's the Lorelai's first day at Chilton. She goes, "You're not buying us a DSL." And I've seen that scene so many times I didn't rewatch it because I was just like, that's funny.
They've made it the
yes, because they've made it the preview on Netflix.
Yeah.
"You're not buying us DSL." I was like, I don't need to watch this. I've seen it 1,000 times.
I'm so glad, because it used to be that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never been here before. Oh, you have to. Hi.
Yeah.
Oh, hi. Yeah, no. I felt
I've
like
never been
that.
through here before.
Yeah.
That's what he says. Yeah.
I feel like that is a bit of a spat. It's a little public. It's a little, a little
public,
bit of an
yes.
ambush. Emily's at the hair salon. She's like, "What the hell are you doing here?"
She can't move. She's stuck.
She's stuck.
No, I think
there.
ambush is a good qualification too.
And there are a couple moments where Lorelai really ambushes her, and I'm excited to talk about them. But this didn't necessarily feel like a fight. It felt like a really tense standoff.
Yeah. She was kind of telling her how it is. Would you call it a fight? Because I don't feel like Emily fought back. I think in part because she was she's at the hair salon.
She's in public. Yeah. She's trying to be, she's keeping herself buttoned up. She's trying to be demure about it.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing is like, this is one of those disagreements between the two of them or standoff, what have you, where it ends with some levity. Now,
I was going to say,
do they validate parking? She's like, I'm dripping, you know? So I feel like it ends with a little bit of levity. So it's like, if it ends with levity, if it ends with a little bit of a joke, is it?
I wouldn't call it on the same level as the pilot or where we're going next.
We're about to go. Yeah.
Yeah. Because like it doesn't necessarily, it's not the same. It's not that like deep, like historical fight that is just can never come to a conclusion.
Totally.
But I wouldn't completely cut it out of like the conflict realm.
Totally.
It exists in this realm of fighting.
Yeah.
But it's more of a 1-2 punch.
Totally. It's more of a, I'm going to tell you
KO.
what it is. And then I'm going to go. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the next one because, I mean, one of the best fights in season 1 and one of the best fights between the two of them, in my opinion, is in Rory's birthday parties. And it's, of course, born from the fact that Emily threw this party for Rory without consulting her about any of the details. She invites all of her quote unquote friends from Chilton. You know, she spends a fortune on the party, as she very, very plainly says to Lorelai when they start the beginning of their fight. But first, there's a little bit of a back and forth between Rory and Emily when Rory kind of explodes on her because she didn't want this party and Emily's kind of forcing her to do things she doesn't want to do. And she explodes on her in a way that she's been bottling up this whole time in this whole episode because she didn't say anything to her mom. She hasn't said anything to Emily because they're getting along between the pudding at Friday night dinner and the shopping trip and experience that they did where she came back to Luke's diner and Rory was like, oh, you had a really good time today with grandma. Okay. Like, you know, she explains to Lane in the episode, like because of the pudding. And Lane's like, oh, right. Yeah, the pudding. You know, because she doesn't want to mess anything up, but that ends up kind of boiling over and Rory gets really upset with Emily. And that in turn has Emily upset with Lorelai, which I think is often how a lot of these fights go. I think that Emily loves to pin any sort of like bad outcome that happens, especially with Rory, onto Lorelai. And any conflict that happens with Rory. Yeah.
I would, because like I even think the pilot had it too, where it first was about Richard. It's like, why is he bringing up Christopher? And then it gets into the two of them. And this one, it's like, why are you doing this to Rory?
Yeah, come to her birthday party. She invited you to her birthday party. It starts out really soft, and Emily's just like, well, I did throw her a birthday party. I spent a fortune on this party. I'm not coming. And it's just like, Emily, girl, come on.
Yeah, she humiliated me in front of my friends. And Lorelai's not having that. And she says that you're going to do exactly to her what you did to me, try to control her. And then if she doesn't do what you want, you're going to shut her out.
Yeah.
And then I love this one because this is one of those examples of like, there's like incredible lines that come out of these fights. It's not just like the emotion to it of her saying, I'll find you a pencil so you can write all these down and I'll read them later.
Yeah.
Like, oh my goodness.
You can write all of your insults down. And it's giving that energy of like, I know how this goes. I know how this ends. So why don't you just write them all down? I'll read them later and we can just save ourselves the energy. And what I really love about this fight is that it brings out a lot. And what I love about a lot of their, especially season 1 fights, is that it brings out a lot of emotion in Lorelai because she's like, We didn't experience this in the pilot fight because there's already so much tension and Lorelai is really resistant to even being at her parents, but she knows she kind of has to be for Rory's sake. And with this fight specifically, there was a little bit of hope there that there was some sort of, again, softness to their relationship between the pudding and the shopping and like, oh, my mom's actually taking my ideas and like she bought Rory a gift that I think she'll really like. And, you know, I think that that's where the disappointment comes in. And when there's disappointment included in an argument and that like emotion, that kind of childlike demeanor that comes out of Lorelai of like, so I guess the pudding thing was just a phase, you know, and she's like, what are you talking about? A fluke, you know? And it's like Emily didn't even realize she was doing it, or maybe she did, but she doesn't want to own it in this conversation. There's just something really powerful about the undertone of that, you know, Lorelai is like, so I guess, you know, I guess the pudding thing's out the window. I guess like us bonding out the window. Here we go again, you know? And I feel like this is a precursor and a prelude almost to the Rory's dance fight that we get a few episodes later, because we see a lot of softness between the two of them, some really, really good bonding and some good like memory making. This feels like core memory between mother and daughter. And then it all goes to shit.
Yeah. And I think that a hallmark of their fights as well is Emily saying something along the lines that she does in this one, which is, oh, so I'm a villain now. And it's like, well.
And recounting everything she's done. I spent a fortune on this party. And she does something similar in the Rory's dance fight, which we can talk about later. But
this one I would qualify as different than the previous conflict that you mentioned, because it does not end on a button. It ends really intensely when she said, if I had a dollar for every time you gave up,
then you could pay for this party, couldn't you?
She was popping her peas.
She was popping her peas. And it's just so good. But again, the emotion in her. Yeah. And like
also the choreography of this one
was
back
really
and
good.
Forth, and like the interruption of like, put the damn cheeses in the damn bags.
Well, I was about to bring that up. So like there is a little bit of that levity there where it's like, this isn't public in the way that like the Lorelai's First Date Chilton little like, you're not buying us DSL was. But this is inside her house in front of other people. And that one extra in the back, that one background actor who's there, the woman who's like looking at them and being like, ooh, giving me life.
I know, but like put the cheese in individual
and then like,
bags.
would you put the damn cheese in individual bags? It's just so funny because she has someone else. That's actually really when Emily explodes. It kind of like builds and builds and builds, and then she explodes on somebody else who isn't Lorelai, which I find to be so funny. But yeah, it is a really good fight. It's kind of, I know that the pilot fight is a fight. But it's the first time we really see the two of them go at each other again since then. Yeah. And it's sad, but it's really, really good to watch because Kelly and Lauren are so good.
And I would say this one doesn't feel as sad. It's sad, but like as the pilot and as the next one that we're going to, just because like I think that they're so angry that it doesn't feel as like the way that Lorelai's voice is breaking in the other fights. I don't feel like hits as hard here because they're just like they're really angry at each other. Not that it's not sad. It super is. But the next one.
Well, here's the other thing that I was going to bring up is that different from the next one we're about to talk about, which is Rory's dance, which is like, not to bury the lead, but like for me, the big kahuna. I know.
We even said this yesterday. I was like, will any of them beat that?
I'm here to tell you no. But the Rory's birthday parties one happens in the middle of the episode. And then there's not necessarily resolution per se, but Emily showing up to Stars Hollow and to the birthday party. And
after she said she wouldn't.
Yeah. There is a bit of an olive branch moment there, whereas Rory's dance, the big kahuna, as I will continue to call it, that's at the end of the episode. And that precipitates even more conflict and bleeds into the next episode. Yes. So there's a lot more heft to it.
Yes. The saddest part of the Rory's birthday parties one is that they're so angry she still comes because she recognizes this is for Rory, and maybe she doesn't know. She wants to see more of what Lorelai thinks about herself, because she, in that fight, they're talking about that Lorelai feels like Emily doesn't know her, but Emily doesn't think she's such a mystery. But it's the end of the episode when the fight feels so sad, when she's like, I don't know my daughter
at all. Yeah.
It's just, you're like, oh, okay, ouch. That fight hurt, but like it was such a delayed pain. Not that it like wasn't in that moment, but
but like a little bit of delayed release
of it.
Again, a fight happening in the middle of an episode and having aftermath to it in the same episode, I think is kind of
the aftershock.
Yeah, it's kind of different from some of the other really, really huge major fights that they have, namely the next one, which is in Rory's dance, which for me is just, it's like a masterclass in acting. When you look at it from the standpoint, like take yourself outside the narrative before we really like get into the pocket of Emily and Lorelai's characters. Kelly and Lauren, I'm just like, oh my God, you guys. And then for that to pivot into a fight between Lauren and Alexis and the way that they dance that dance, it's just really... It's beautiful from like an acting, cinematography, like when you actually think about the contents of the episode standpoint. 10 out of 10, no notes.
And even the lead up to it is really like, it's setting you up for heartbreak, because this, of course, Rory's dance when she goes to Chilton, the Chilton dance with Dean, and Emily comes over to see her off, but Lorelai has hurt her back, so she is staying and helping her out, and makes her banana toast, which... If you smash the bananas, that's what makes it bad. You just gotta have sliced bananas. That's really the...
And a little bit of like almond butter.
Yeah, you know, I don't like almond butter, but for sure, definitely.
Or peanut butter, something. Like you need to have like a little... else. And like drizzle a little honey on it. And now it's like a really cute almond butter, peanut butter, whatever, butter toast.
Yeah, but it's the smashed on the toast that really gets you. But regardless, she makes it for her. She makes her taste it. She realizes it's bad, and you're just
I
like,
love that moment between the two of them. It's so cute. Yeah.
And then she pulls the blanket over her because the movie stops, and so Emily's clearly been there all night.
I'll tell you how it ends.
There's so many cute moments that, like, what does we call this? It's like mac and cheese Emily. It's like banana toast Emily.
Well, because the thing is that banana toast Emily, I'm dead. I just love though that like this whole time, at least for me, I don't want to speak for everybody in the audience when I say this, but like for me, I kind of forget that there is that like motherly instinct within Emily when it comes to her relationship with Lorelai, because up until this point, everything has been really critical. And so to see that like, you know, nurturing side of her when it, like towards Lorelai and not towards Rory, because we would expect that towards Rory maybe at this point in the story, but we've never really seen it towards Lorelai. And to see her like put the blanket over her and have Lorelai call her mommy, like there's just something so, it's like when she calls Richard daddy, it's cute. It's like you remember, like I said, kind of this childlike energy from Lorelai.
Like, oh my God, this is your mom.
That's your mom. Like that's who raised you. And it just makes your heart swell. And then to see where we go after that is like, oh my God.
Yeah, she set you up to hurt you, that Amy Sherman-Palladino.
She really does.
She was like, do you want to feel pain? Okay, I'm going to make it feel really nice first. Then I'm going to break you apart.
It's bad. It's so bad that it's good, you know?
Well, do you think it would have hurt as much to not have that softness beforehand?
No, because I think that the Rory's birthday parties fight is not as intense as this one, right? But I do think that intensity comes from the softness that, like the juxtaposition of the softness we felt from them the night before. Because we're so used to, like I said, we're used to seeing Emily and Lorelai at odds. That's what they set us up for in the pilot. As soon as she opens the door, Lorelai, hi mom. What is it? Easter already? Like there's already that edge there. It's always there. And
that's what I thought you were going to say earlier when you were like, oh, I'm going to NOLA for Easter. I thought you were going to say Easter already.
Yeah, I just feel like from the jump, they set Emily up to have that critical edge towards Lorelai because that's their relationship as it stands now. To get them back to their roots a little bit in this episode, I think is what makes the intensity of the fight at the end of Rory's dance so good. So strong.
Yeah. I think it would have not come out of nowhere, but it just wouldn't have been like to have a fight rooted in something that was so soft or started so soft.
Totally.
Excellent. Excellent Amy Sherman Palladino.
I agree.
But this fight comes about because Rory hasn't come home.
Mm-hmm. And this is when the tables kind of turn a little bit as far as like the dance they're dancing of the avoidance
No pun intended.
versus yes. But what I was saying earlier about this kind of like the roles that they play in their fights sometimes where it's like one of them is trying to avoid the situation and the other one is nipping until everything explodes. So I feel like the first time it was Emily nipping at Lorelai. The next time it was Lorelai nipping at Emily, who wanted to avoid the situation and the conversation with the birthday parties. And then here in Rory's dance, I think because they had such a good night the night before, she's like, all right, we know she's okay. Because Patty calls her and says, you know, she and Dean fell asleep. I don't want to go there. Can we just I'm going to make some coffee.
She might have been understanding. Like, oh, Rory's okay. Because they both woke up and they were in a panic about where Rory was. And Emily was just chitter-chattering over here while Lorelai was trying to find the phone. Because she was complaining about her house was too messy. What if there was a fire? What if Rory was choking and you didn't know where the phone was? And so once they find out that she's okay, she's like, okay, cool.
Okay. I don't want to explode. Let's just wait until she
fuel
gets
is already
home.
on the fire.
And
the match
Emily
has been lit.
will not let it go. She is just, and I don't know if it's because Lorelai didn't match her energy as soon as she woke up and realized that Rory wasn't there. I don't know if it's just within her instinct to just, again, just blame Lorelai. It's Lorelai's fault. Lorelai is the reason why she didn't come home last night. She's going to get pregnant. She's going to do exactly what you did. It just instantly goes back to that dynamic. And Lorelai's trying so hard to just be like, Mom, back off. And she won't. I mean, don't ever tell Emily Gilmore to back off. She'll fight harder.
But also, if it had been Rory went to Lane's house and fell asleep and now she's on her way home, I think that Emily would have been like, oh, okay. And throwing it back on Lorelai, why didn't you know where your daughter was? But because she was at Miss Patty's all night with Dean, what is that, a motel?
Was that a
Killed
motel?
me.
So funny.
And she's like, oh, she's going to get pregnant just like you. And then when Lorelai throws the coffee pot.
Pot throw. Oh my God.
No, she's not. No, she's not. No, she's not.
Oh God, it's so good. It's so good. And then it really it gets so ugly when Emily's like, what kind of mother are you? And Lorelai goes, I don't know, Mom. What kind of mother were you? I was like, oh, it's.
Yeah.
God.
And this fight's so good because it's kind of bringing everything that had been going on for the last, this is episode 8 or 9? This is episode 9. The last 9 episodes kind of comes to a head because we're like, okay, these two have to blow up at some point. And here they are. But this fight carries all the way up until Friday Night's All Right for Fighting in season 6. And so this is just, this fight is the show. Between the two of them, or at least Lorelai and Emily's relationship. This is everything between the two of them. And the dialogue that's going on here, the way that it's shot, the acting, the pure hate and longing that is between the two of these is just so delicious. And not to mention the fact that this comes full circle when we get to season 6, because this is when Emily says, you're going to lose her just like I lost you.
I know. It really comes full circle in season 6.
Yeah. Because
now, would you say
here, Lorelai's
hate?
yeah. I think that there's some, I wouldn't say that it's only hate, but there is definitely some hate that exists here. Definitely on Lorelai's side. She has a lot of hatred towards her mother.
You think it's hatred? I think it's pain and resentment.
Which I think I don't think that hate can exist on itself.
Yeah.
Like on its own. Like I think that she can love her mother. I think she can acknowledge her mother's goodness sometimes, I guess. I think there can be the pain and I think there can be the resentment, but I do think that she, like for the most part, the way that she talks about her, the way that she talks about her with other people, which there's some other fights that involve that. I don't think I think it's hard to not call it hate. I feel like it's a hard word.
It is a hard word.
But
yeah, for sure. I don't know.
But
I don't know that
I think she oscillates. But she definitely hates her mom.
Interesting. I don't know.
You don't think she hates her mom?
I don't know if I agree with that.
What would you say it is?
I think she resents her mom.
But there's no hate there.
I think hate's a really strong word.
But I think that they can, like, I think with like parental relationships, I think that the hate and the love can like oscillate.
Yeah, of course.
But I definitely think
she's definitely not indifferent towards her mom, which is the opposite of love and hate. So I'm curious what our audience thinks, if they think that like Lorelai truly hates her mother.
And I don't think that it's a consistency in hating her. I think in this moment she hates her for sure.
I mean,
the things that she's saying to her.
Oh my God, of course. I think that the things that Emily's saying to her are very visceral and very like intense because again, she's not only blaming Lorelai for upending her life when she was a child, when she was 16, when she got pregnant, and for ruining, quote unquote, ruining their relationship. But she's also blaming her for the potential of like history repeating itself with Rory. And in this moment, it's blame coming from all angles. She's not a good daughter and she's not a good mother. And that is just, I think the ammo that Lorelai has to go get out. Oh, like, I will not have you come into my house and disrespect me. Like, you keep saying that I don't have a life. Look around, Mom. This is a life. It might have some color in it, so you may not recognize it. It's just so like, I just could listen to her.
Everything that happens here is so good.
It's so good. And I just, the way that she unloads on her after being unloaded on and it's just like, get out of my house is this even though we're so freshly into this show and this season, we've been building towards this.
Yeah. And I think that she hates her in only a way that you can hate your family. And that the way that you're going to come back in the next episode when your dad is in the hospital and you're going to show up for her and you're going to be the person that she needs.
Well, that's the thing, is that I feel like the intensity of this fight, it kind of boils over into a lot of different dynamics. You know, everything that transpires between Emily and Lorelai somehow involves Richard, of course, because, you know, of that dynamic between the three of them. And that will really come into play, I think, in season 3. But I think that the way that it then pivots into a fight between Lorelai and Rory spills over into the next episode, which we've talked about before, that Rory's dance and forgiveness and stuff, they aired one night apart from each other. It's almost like a 2-part episode. So it makes a lot of sense that that conflict would continue to bleed into that episode. But that's what I think makes the fight even more meaningful, is how long it ends up kind of derailing the energy between everybody. Lorelai, Rory, Lorelai, Emily. But it eventually...
The fact that it's the Christmas special.
Exactly. The Christmas special. So yeah, I thought it was brilliant. It's a brilliant fight.
Yeah. It's my favorite.
For me, it's the top. It's their number one. When I think of Lorelai and Emily fights, is the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah.
All
I can hear is Kelly Bishop saying, you'll lose her like, or what is it? You'll lose her? I said that, and then you're going to lose her just like I lost you. Mm-hmm. There's just something about that line that, like, whenever I think of her, I see her face. I see her in her suit.
Yeah.
And you're going to lose her like I lost you. And then, like, the reverse of that, when Lorelai's on the plane, you didn't lose her, and you didn't lose me. Oh,
Okay. I don't want to cry. All right. So after that, what was the next one that you wrote down for season 1?
I have Emily in Wonderland.
I have Paris is Burning. It's not really a fight, but she's getting scolded. Like, you know, after everything that transpires between Max and Lorelai and the NC-17 moment that they apparently had at Rory's school, it's like the intensity of her opening the door and being like, Rory, go upstairs. Like, she's like, I don't want you to see how I'm about to like verbally scold your mother.
I don't want you to be embarrassed.
I don't want you to be embarrassed. And so I do think it could have led to a fight. I don't know if I would consider it a fight, but it's definitely a scolding.
Yeah. I think it kind of, I think it exists above DSL, but like well below.
Love the DSL is the barometer. It's a notch above DSL, but
it's a notch above DSL, but way below Rory's dance.
Way below.
And below the pilot too.
Oh, for sure.
It's just in a different sort of category. I don't know what category
it also
I would
has
put
some
it in.
levity to it because Lorelai's like, gee, Mom, did I do something wrong? A mistake? Is that what you call this, a mistake? Well, I tried to call it out, but it would only answer to mistake. Like,
and I know you love that line so much.
I love that line a lot. See, it's like the only thing that saves Paris is Burning for me. But it ends with a lot of softness and a lot of emotion from Lorelai. Like, she does end up walking out of that conversation crying. So for me, it's not necessarily a fight, but it is a bit of a scolding.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Then I also felt like it's tough to like quantify this, but the argument they kind of get into over the trust fund money in the third Lorelai, not a fight, but definitely some conflict that leads to a little bit of like a spat between the two of them, which gets Rory's trust fund, I don't know if taken away is the right word, but like, you know,
revoked
or delayed. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't really know how. We never really get much closure
Deferred?
on that. I mean, yeah, I think that, so when they're at the Gilmores and Lorelai's trying to leave, it's more of like the puppy thing that you were talking about before, where Emily's like, so if suddenly you have all this money, Rory can go to Europe with anyone else. She doesn't have to go with you. And she's like giving her all of these alternatives as to why having that money would ruin her relationship with Rory.
Totally.
But really what Emily is realizing is that they would be obsolete. And I don't think that Lorelai's engaging with it much, but like until they get to the tea where Trix has witnessed this and she's not into it. And
well, that's the thing is that like, that's what made me think of it was that Trix comes in and she's like, I don't want to see the two of you do this anymore. So bye. Money's gone. Deet. You know,
later guys.
So I was like, this is definitely
as
like
Trix says, later guys.
Later guys, later girlies, see you later. But yeah, the next thing I wrote down, of course, was Emily in Wonderland. Not so much a fight as I do feel like it is Emily unloading on Lorelai. You hated us that much? Like the intensity in how she felt seeing the potting shed where the two of them stayed and lived for like 7 years. Yeah. Crazy.
Well, because she's showing her the room. This was the one where she like has decorated this room and all of Rory's quote unquote favorite things. Got some Hello Kitty notepads. Is it In Sync? Is that the poster? Yeah. And sunflowers, etc. And she says, is it because it's not a shack in the woods?
Oh my God.
She like doesn't like it.
It has 4 solid walls around the bathroom. Like she really starts digging into her. And I don't think Lorelai wants to participate in it. Like it is that Lorelai is trying to diffuse the situation. She's like, Mom, I was very young and very unhappy. And, you know, Emily storms away. So it's kind of like what you were talking about earlier, where it's like there was a little bit of Lorelai diffusing the situation. If we can diffuse it within the conversation, do we quantify it as a fight? And this is hard because Lorelai tries to diffuse it.
Diffused.
Yeah.
Because like she storms away and she like participates for just a second, but then she's like, Mom, I was very young and I was very unhappy. And because she says you hated us that much. And I think that throwing that word into it, I don't think Lorelai wants to acknowledge that that's what that was. It's like, but you left their house.
Yeah.
Like you were that unhappy. And I do think that this is more of a Emily is the star of this one. It's not equally weighted.
Totally.
But it does
Whereas like
bring
Rory's
up,
dance, equally weighted.
yeah, it brings up
Totally.
enough of the pain of the history between the two of them that Emily is fighting with Lorelai, I think. I don't think they're fighting together. I think Lorelai is recognizing Emily's pain, which I think she can step back sometimes and do while recognizing the decisions that she made that led to it. Maybe not taking ownership of them, but recognizing that Emily does have pain there. And that they're fighting.
They're fighting. The next fight is in season 2.
Yes.
Hammers and Veils. And when I was thinking of season 2 fights, this is the first thing that came to mind when, of course, Lorelai shows up, ambushes her.
This is an ambush.
This is an ambush.
This is an ambush, a shout, an avoidance, a shout back, and a bad ending.
Ooh, it's a lot.
It's all of them.
In Hammers and Veils, Lorelai, of course, in the last episode has agreed that she's going to marry Max. She hasn't told her mom, though. And at the end of the last episode, Sadie, which is the premiere of season 2, Emily finds out from Suki that Lorelai is engaged and she didn't tell them. And that really hurts her. We see the pain in her, which I think is what makes this fight so fascinating to watch.
Yeah, this is like one of those things that's fun because we know what's going on. This is one of those first instances where we have a tension with the characters that the characters don't quite have yet.
Yeah.
And it's more like a tension with us.
Yeah.
Because when Max and Lorelai, they're on their date and she's like, you know what would be really fun into this date? If we went to my mom's house and yelled at her.
A fight.
Do you want a show with dinner, Max?
Yeah, because I will give you a show.
I've got one. And Max the whole time is like, is this what we should be doing?
Yeah, Max the whole time is like, could we please not do this? And she's like, no,
and she's like,
we're going to do this.
I bought the ticket for you.
You could wait in the car. I know I invited you to the show, but you don't have to
knock,
come.
Knock. It's Lorelai.
And she's confronting her mom because in Hammers and Veils in this episode, she told her mom that she was getting married. And of course, because of the way that Emily already knew and already found out, she's like, well, that's nice. Hopefully we'll be in town for it.
But if not, we'll send a gift.
And if not, we'll be sure to send a gift. Excuse me. Get something on the table.
They ended up alone together because Rory and Richard fought about Dean in the last episode. So they're kind of reconciling as this other fight is rearing up. I think that this one is one of the hardest to watch from Lorelai's end because she's accepting how much she's hurt now. Yeah. And as much as she has, like, as much as you can hate your family, it's really because they don't see you. And this is when she realizes that you can't muster up the enthusiasm. This is maybe the biggest thing to happen to me for the rest of my life. Why have you never cared?
Yes.
It hurts.
When she says
it really
that,
hurts.
Why don't you care? Why have you never cared? Oh my God.
And
that
she's just
so
Emily.
Oh my God. Like that's
and the emotion in her voice too.
Yes.
Like she's about to cry. But I think it was George Clooney who not to bring George Clooney into this.
But wow. Wow, it's nice out here in left field. What?
No. Wait. George comes back. This makes sense. That it was talking about it's easy to cry as an actor, but that's not what people do. People don't try to cry. People try not to cry. Yes. So the hallmark of a good actor is an actor who knows that they need to be crying, but who is trying to stop themselves.
So real.
And that's what Lauren Graham is doing here. This is where George Clooney. I know. I have to find exactly where he said that. Maybe it wasn't George. Maybe I'm starting a rumor about George Clooney. I don't know.
God.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought that Haley
George Clooney rumors.
Started rumors about George Clooney.
Yeah, I'm tired of rumors. This was the last episode.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're talking about rumors.
Anyway.
No, but you're so right. Lauren does a phenomenal job at conveying this without it being a sob fest. And this is kind of what happened in Rory's birthday parties. It's like the emotion is simmering right there on the surface, but she's not letting it come out. It's like, I am trying to convey to you that I am so angry and I'm so hurt. And that's why I do feel like there's just so much pain that exists between the two of them. And I often feel like that is, of course, why their conflict exists, but I mean in a way that's like they're talking past each other because they're prioritizing their pain and why they are hurt and why the person on the other side of the argument hurt them more than they hurt them. And it's this vicious cycle between the two of them, which again is what kind of keeps the engine of the show moving. And that's why these fights are so fascinating to watch and so important to the story and to like keeping these relationships really interesting. But I just think that Lorelai's MO is to get so angry she's on the precipice of crying, and Emily's MO is to like really try to keep it together. And that's what makes these, the mask. And when the mask slips off, that's actually the mask. Jim Carrey and the mask. But that's what makes these fights so fascinating, is how the actresses approach them for their characters differently, like how they show up. And in this one, again, Lorelai is the one nipping, and Emily is like, I'm not talking about this with you right now. You need to calm down. I'm going to bed. She's like, I will not have this conversation with you.
Are like, whoa, wait. She knows something. Is it gonna come out? And Lorelai just keeps being, do you know what that feels like? Do you know what it's like to be hurt like this? Do you know?
I don't know. I was when she explodes is like, oh my God, here it comes, here it comes. Oh, no. Because as an audience member, you're like, I mean, again, I'm going to speak for myself. Like, I'm so team Lorelai almost always. But seeing that moment with Emily is very different. It's a very different experience because we see the pain in her in the last episode. And so we're also kind of like, actually, tell her.
Well, Lorelai's response to that is kind of that, because she's like probably like having a stranger tell you that her daughter told everyone else she was engaged before she told her mother. Possibly like that.
And the surprise, because Lorelai, what is she going to say to that?
She's like, oops, sorry. We're going to go now.
What is she going to say to that?
There's nothing. And she does say nothing to that. And Emily just opens up the door because it's time for her to go. And Lorelai sees herself out. And then Max says, my parents would really like to have lunch with you and Mr. Gilmore soon. It was nice to meet you.
Thanks, Max.
Thanks, Max. Get the fuck out.
Yeah, just get out
my
of here.
Dude. You didn't want to come. Don't say anything.
Oh, the backyardigans are
here. Yeah, they're
here.
Hi,
guys. But this is very similar to Rory's birthday parties as well, in the sense that this fight happens kind of in the middle of the episode. And by the end of the episode, I wouldn't say is necessarily quote unquote resolved, but we get some resolution to it in the form of Lorelai showing up and apologizing to her mom, which is really huge. You can tell that Lorelai is like, I know you're hurt. I know you're hurt that I didn't tell you, and here is why I didn't tell you. And I want you to be a part of this, so much so that I'm asking you which veil you think I should wear. And Emily's resistant to it. She's still keeping this mask on until she finally is like, you should wear a tiara, which I can't imagine Lorelai wearing a tiara.
I totally can.
You can? To her wedding? Really?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Here's the thing. Lorelai would at first, I think, be resistant to it because she loves a plastic tiara, that girl.
Oh, but I could see her wearing a plastic fuzzy tiara. I'm talking about like a true Yale male party, male Yale party, Rory Gilmore style tiara.
I think she would at first be very resistant, but I think that Lorelai is the kind of gal who, like, she loves really nice things, despite the fact that she begrudges her mother for this. She loves Jimmy Choo's, like, she loves a Sephora trip, that girly, that I think that if she saw the tiara with the dress and she was like, well, I'm a fucking princess, which she would be very resistant to, I also kind of think she'd be like, well, I look really beautiful. You know, I think under the right circumstances, little Miss Lorelai Gilmore, who loves nice things, I think she could. In the same way that, like, we're like, you would never sleep on a park bench. She would love a nice hotel, that girl.
Yeah, that's fair.
So
that's fair.
She can sleep in a hostel, but
I see her kind of in a veil, or in like, remember in The Parent Trap when they put the veil on the top hat? I see that.
I was literally about to say something like that. Or a tiara with a veil.
Oh, or that.
I could see her in a tiara. Like
I could really see her, honestly. And I know we never really got to see Lorelai in like a full wedding dress walking down the aisle getting married kind of situation. A lot of it was very unconventional, between like seeing her wedding dress for her June 3rd wedding that never happened, seeing her in this newspaper veil that, you know, for a wedding to Max that didn't happen, her wedding to Christopher, which we never see and seemingly was not very traditional, and then of course her wedding to Luke at least
In the middle of the
one that we
night.
saw in the middle of the night, which
The
was
jammy
also not
wedding.
very, which was also not done very traditionally. As far as like what she was wearing, it was done very spur of the moment. Let's do this. I do think that if I could put her in something, I mean, I loved her June 3rd wedding dress that she never wore. I thought it was so stunning on her.
nice.
But I would love to see her hair like pulled back and have her in like like a hair piece, like a beautiful, like intricately done hair piece that is like a comb that sticks in that has a veil. I could see that on her.
Okay, I could see that too.
With the strapless dress, I could see that.
Yeah,
Personally,
I could also see a tiara
I appreciate that.
to bring it back.
Could also see a
But
tiara.
no, this
Her
episode
head is much
has
too
that.
big for a veil. Don't get it twisted. Your head is much too big for a veil. Thanks, Em. Thanks, Mom.
Thanks, Em. And that's what I was gonna say. It's like this episode comes to that like moment that like opposite of Rory's birthday parties where it like kind of has that like, oh, the knife's already in, let's push it deep, like make sure it gets you. Where this one you're like, oh, the knife's in, okay, let's I don't know, put a little stitch in the wound
Yeah,
that
for
has
sure.
been caused, you know. It's a cute moment where she's like, wear a tiara, and I think because she says I wore a tiara,
Oh, like
so you're like,
really sweet.
okay,
Okay,
cute,
Em.
sweet,
Cute.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I love it. The next one I've written down for season 2 is Secrets and Loans.
Oh, Secrets and Loans on Patreon feels like I don't know, some sort of like
Unicorn.
lore.
Yeah.
Yeah, this like episode that like just like became like such like a barometer for episodes.
It's true.
And I missed her.
The thing is that it really is as quick as Emily being like, I just wanted to do something nice for my daughter. And again,
Yeah.
like the nipping from Lorelai, like, so Mom, what are we going to do now? Is it going to be this? Is it going to be that? What are you going to hold over my head now? And she's like, nothing. I just wanted to do something nice for my daughter.
And
it's
it
like,
turns out that's so right. It never comes up ever again.
Never
But
does.
this is a gentle fight. They are fighting. They are outside of
there's
the bank.
conflict. Yes.
Yes. They're bringing up some of the past in the sense that, like, what are you going to lord over me? What are you going to hold over my head for this
Yeah.
loan? And she's giving her very strict rules. You'll come in here. You'll say nothing. Amy loves a Clarence Thomas reference because she throws one in here. And it's like, say nothing, do nothing. You're invisible. You're silent. You're going to be in,
You
here
are
in your
invisible.
invisible suits.
Yes. Visible
Like-
suits.
Yeah. And so it just like, it's comes to a conclusion, but they're fighting, but it's not to go from a Hammers and Veils fights to a Secrets and Loans fights.
Very different
Both of
vibes.
the Hammers and the Veils, much different than the Secrets and the Loans.
And much different than where we go from here, because the next one I've written down is It Should Have Been Lorelai.
It should have been Lorelai, which
Huge.
really is the fight itself.
Yeah. It
The
should
name
have
of the
been
episode
you.
is the fight.
So of
Yeah.
course Christopher shows up with Sherry. This is the first time that we meet Sherry.
Sherry.
And yeah, there's a mixture of emotions because this is the first time that Christopher has really brought someone around Lorelai and Rory, and someone he seems very serious about, and someone who also seems very serious about him, and someone who's really put
And
together.
seems serious about getting like to know Rory.
To know Rory.
in turn.
Yeah. And I think Lorelai's doing her best to not feel threatened by that. I mean, we see a little bit of her feeling threatened by it in the Bracebridge dinner before we meet Sherry in this episode. But she's doing a lot to rise above it. And she brings Chris to Friday night dinner so that Rory can go to dinner with Sherry and they can get to know each other. And that really sets Emily off. And Emily then goes into the kitchen. She's drinking straight liquor. So, you know, she's mad. Big mad.
She's big mad. Wait, why do I feel like what is this feeling? But Lorelai is Glinda and Emily is Elphaba, but it's about Sherry.
Hilarious.
Blonde.
Blonde, but
Loathing. They're
Yeah.
just like, I feel like that's how they feel about Sherry.
very
admittedly.
true. Very true. And so Lorelai comes in an attempt to calm Emily down because Emily is getting worked up as they're sitting in
She's angry.
she's mad.
Put her angry eyes out.
Yeah, she pulled her angry eyes out. And so she's in the kitchen. And I love that they always fight in the kitchen. Those girlies
Yes.
love a kitchen fight.
The knives
the
are
pilot-
too close.
I know. I'm like, why are you always in the
Yeah,
kitchen?
well, We should have tallied up a kitchen fight.
We
like
really
that should be one
should.
of the qualifications for a fight. Is it in the kitchen?
Is it in the kitchen? It's true.
Yeah.
Because like that's where they started. Then the Rory's dance fight in Lorelai's kitchen. And
At
here we are
Lorelai's
again.
kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They love a kitchen fight. But Emily is really, really, it's like she's fighting with her, but she's also fighting for her, which I find really fascinating.
Yeah. Maybe not for her. She's fighting on behalf of her.
Yes.
Yes. Because she says, are you blind or just that humiliated? Oh my goodness.
I would be like, Mom, lower your voice.
Because I don't know what you're saying.
Yeah, because she's really speaking to a lot of, I'm sure, what Lorelai has already gone through 1,000 times in her mind when it comes to her relationship with Christopher. And so to then have your mom, your mother, as she would call her, like speak to it, your mom who you have so much conflict with, where Christopher has always been a bit of a sore spot. Let us, go back to the pilot fight where it's like, well, your father likes Christopher. Oh, interesting. Because I don't really remember him liking him so much when he got me pregnant, know? And she has always been an advocate, Emily, for Christopher and Lorelai being together. And now she feels like not only is that being ripped away from her, it's being ripped away from Lorelai, and it's being ripped away from Rory. And Rory's getting to know Sherry, and that woman, she's just getting her claws in her. It's so, there is like a little bit of hilarity to it, but it does end with a lot. It's not until Lorelai meets her where she is, where it's like, oh, okay, this was her trying to like kind of calm Emily down, but now it's actually kind of a fight. Yeah,
because when the way that they get into it, when she says, deep down, I know you're heartbroken. I'm not heartbroken. Well, I am.
Yeah.
It's like there's like a hilarity to it because it's like, well, I am. But it's also like guiding Lorelai deeper into this because she was okay. She was okay with Sherry taking Rory off and like going to dinner with Chris. Like it felt like a bonus.
Yeah, totally.
And then I wonder what would have happened if Sherry would have come to dinner with Rory and Chris. I don't know if that would have been better or worse. I honestly think this is worse because it's like the whole idea of like, we're never going to see that girl again. It's like, well, be so fucking for real. She's my daughter. She's going to come back.
Correct.
She did not kidnap her.
But this is a situation where Emily is once again blaming Lorelai for Christopher being with Sherry. Christopher's always wanted to be with you. He's always been in love with you, and you've never wanted to be with him. You've always pushed him away. And she's like, "What? Now you're making this about me? Don't put that on me, mother." And that's when it becomes a fight.
But she does spiral her a little bit when she says that she's heartbroken because she was like, you could have been the person to help him get his life together.
Your destiny was to be with Christopher, and now it's too late.
Yeah, and I think that kind of starts a little spark in her mind.
Well, of course, given where the episode goes after that, and the fight that then ends up ensuing between her and Chris and Luke's diner. Holy moly!
What does he say? Well, thanks for Christopher.
Oh God, it's escaping me because I didn't watch this part. I just watched her and Emily.
No, I didn't either. I just watched the fight.
But he really lays into her after this because she tries to take what this fight is and turn it into something positive and share it with Chris, and it really blows up in her face.
Yeah.
He says something to the effect of like, next time you want to like blame me for all of your problems, just leave a note. Like gets up and leaves. He has his angry eyes on. He is king of getting his angry eyes on.
He's the king of angry eyes. He's the Mr. Potato Head of the series.
He really is. And your angry eyes.
This just came up recently on Patreon. This is why we're in the Mr. Potato Head era of our life.
We really are.
But this fight's important for season 3, I feel like. Because a lot of this lends to what's coming later.
Yes.
But before we get to season 3, let's get into one of Tara's favorite episodes of the series, and that is There's the Rub.
There's the Rub.
Such a good.
This is such a great episode for Lorelai and Emily and their relationship as a whole. But where it builds to, because the whole time, I mean, we all know and love it well. This is the episode where Lorelai and Emily go to the spa, and Rory's left at home, and Jess comes over, and Paris is there, and they get into a fight. Y'all know the episode. It's a great conflict episode. But Emily is just in her glory, like trying to make the most of this spa trip. And Lorelai is rolling her eyes the whole time. And they're finally both having a great time when they go to the bar and they get the steaks and they kind of like go
Martinis.
rogue. Oh, it's so
Emily's
great. She's eating
peanuts.
Yes, I love it. But of course, this really creepy man who is at this 60-40 bar takes a shine to Emily, asks her to dance. Lorelai is like, oh, come on, mom, it's harmless, blah, blah, blah. And she is actually having fun. But then when things get a little too close, when he pulls her in for a slow dance, Emily gets really uncomfortable.
He does that like cheek rest. We're all kind of uncomfortable.
It is really gross, honestly. Like, I do understand
in that episode. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I understand why Emily is so off put by it. But of course, in true Emily fashion, she blames Lorelai for it. You let me get 60-40.
60-40. That's what our word should have been, 60-40.
Yeah, exactly. And she's like, you pushed it too far. You knew I was uncomfortable with this. Why did you want us to come here? Like, I love when she goes, we ate at the bar. Only hookers eat at bars.
Well, if there's not a table available.
Yeah, only if they can't get a table. And it's a shame because like it is really Emily fighting with Lorelai. Yeah. And
Lorelai says we were having fun.
We were having fun. And that is, you know, it's different from the ooey gooey moments that then lead to like the blow ups that we got in season 1 because we've established these women already. We've established their conflict. We don't need to necessarily get it to a blow up point like it did, I think, often in season 1 because we were really setting the tone, setting the stage for their relationship. We're established. And what I love about this fight is that it is really just Emily trying so hard to have a relationship with her daughter. The second that they have one that even remotely resembles what Lorelai would love, like going to the bar, eating a steak, eating peanuts, like
nice
being
time.
silly,
just being
having
silly, goofy.
Yes, like just being girls. Emily can't really handle it. And so like the second they get close to something that Lorelai is comfortable with, Emily like freaks out. And then they go back to the hotel and Emily
it's because the root of this fight is she says there's a way for a mother to behave in front of her daughter.
Yes.
And this is not it. And
yes.
so
and once again, kind of a like I said at the beginning of this episode, kind of a criticism of her parenting and the way that she views having a relationship with her daughter when they go back to the hotel and it's like, well, or the spa rather. And it's like, thank you for agreeing to leave early. You know, there's like definitely a lot of tension there and her being like, why can't we have what you and Rory have? Well, Rory and I are best friends first and mother-daughter second. You and I are mother and daughter always. I wasn't taught to be friends with my daughter. There is that like at odds conflict. And so I really love this spat between the two of them because it is a huge turning point moment in the sense that like they finally have the conversation of why can't we have what you have with your daughter, which has not been brought up yet in this entire series. Yeah. It's been a criticism of Emily's to talk about like, you know, the way she maybe disagrees with Lorelai on the way she parents Rory, but then she kind of like lets the mask fall and slip a little bit and say like, I want to have what you and Rory have.
We never knew that she wanted that with Lorelai.
Huge. That's a huge moment.
She wanted that sort of connection. Big.
Yeah. Big.
B-I-G big.
But definitely not like a fight, I'd say.
No. I'd say the beginning is the fight. The fight at the chop house.
But would you call it a fight? I think it's like it's similar to Emily in Wonderland in the sense that it's like Emily fighting with Lorelai and Lorelai being like, Mom, we were having a good time. Like,
and I think it hurts her is really what it is like having that, because I think that in Emily in Wonderland, she was a little bit, she knew the stakes. Here, they had stakes, and then it got switched so suddenly that she was like, we were having a good time. Like, why is this coming out like this? Yeah. And I think that it's a little bit different. It's in public. They're yelling.
It's in public.
And I just think it's unexpected.
But Lorelai's not yelling.
A little ambushy. No.
Right.
It's just more of like, she feels like not almost like betrayed by the moment because she was like, we were having such a good time and now this is like this. But then to later learn that maybe she does want something like that with her. So they steal the robes. And so I think it's like, it starts one way and then when we change the scene, it gets de-escalated. But I think it was, I would still consider it a fight at the chop house.
Yeah.
Even if Lorelai is, because I think Lorelai's getting hurt by what she's saying.
Sure. I get that.
She's fighting with her. Emily is, and Lorelai's not necessarily fighting, but she's a casualty of the fight, if you will. But she comes back. They steal the robes, which is like now mine and Tara's favorite thing, the hotels.
Love.
Which the Chase Park Plaza, after we stayed there and talked about the robes, he sent us the robes because we didn't steal them.
Robes. So then after that, there are robes. So after that, I only listed 2 more kind of conflicts. So they're not even really like, they're not fights.
Oh, I only have one. Interesting.
I have dead uncles and vegetables.
Yes.
She gets all mad at Lorelai because she ruined her time with Suki's wedding planning.
Yeah. Okay, this feels DSL.
Yeah. Yeah. It's her kind of like coming into Luke's diner and being like, Suki fired me. She's like, okay, mom, cool.
Yeah.
You were never actually hired. And also like she and her husband, she's like, come on. Like
they aren't wealthy people.
They aren't wealthy people. They don't have this kind of money to spend on this. Like, come on. And again, it's rooted in the fact that like Lorelai's like, you weren't really planning Suki's wedding. You were planning my wedding. And she's like, no, your wedding was going to be a Romanov theme.
Russian winter
theme, the Romanovs. And then she's like, whatever, I'm probably standing in your reception hall anyway. So
yeah, but
it just turns into silliness.
About the snow though, and her coming up on a sleigh. I'm like, wait, this is like such a Lorelai wedding.
Actually,
she's
that's like kind of perfect for
she
her.
was like, you wouldn't like that, you hate it.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, it's because we're standing in your reception hall. But I was like, no, that's like actually the perfect wedding for Lorelai, to get married and it's snowing and there's a sleigh and a tiara.
So perfect.
She would love it.
And a tiara. But the next one that I had after this, because this is more of like a silly argument, silliness. But dead uncles and vegetables, I mean, not this one. But in Help Wanted, there is a little bit of arguing and scolding because of Rory getting in the car accident and breaking her arm and Lorelai not telling Emily. And so when she shows up to the work party and she's like, what happened? I can't believe that you didn't tell us. And then when Rory reveals to her, like, I went to go get ice cream with a friend. Which friend? Jess, I thought you were going to keep her away from that boy. It suddenly becomes Lorelai's fault. And
well, I feel like that one I didn't necessarily qualify between them because it's more about Rory and the two of them, because
totally
Lorelai's trying to cover for her, but then they go into the hallway and they have their little spitty spat.
Yeah.
So it was almost like the precursor to a Lorelai Rory conflict.
Yes.
Didn't really scratch the surface on anything. We were like, yeah, you're going to be mad.
Of course. You're going to scold her a little bit.
Yeah.
But then we move into season 3, where the first episode out the gate, we get a bit of a heated conversation. I don't know if I'd call it a fight per se, between Lorelai, Emily, and Richard. It's like Richard's involved. And that is actually what kind of brings the intensity up a little bit, because it starts out as Emily laying into Lorelai because she's like, where's Christopher? Why is he here? You guys are together now. And then she realizes.
Starts with Emily. Like it starts between them because she's like, it's over. Like she realizes.
They're not together anymore. I'm sure a vague response is forthcoming. It just didn't work out. And there it is. Like, this is the problem with you. You flip from thing to thing, from man to man. She's like, I do not do those things. Actually,
no responsibility in life.
Yeah. She's like really laying into her. And she's like, I want a solid adult reason why the two of you can't work this out. I want to know why. Like, it's very firm and very tense. There's a little bit of raised voice. I mean, Richard says, do not raise your voice. And she's like, I'm not doing anything wrong. His girlfriend is
she says,
pregnant.
I'm not doing anything at all.
Yeah. That always makes me laugh.
But when she says, I want a solid adult reason, his girlfriend is pregnant,
I got chills.
That's like,
whoo, I got chills.
Drops. It's this interesting thing because it's not necessarily a fight between Emily and Lorelai. It's a fight we've seen before. It's a precursor to a fight to come. It's like an epilogue to a fight that's already happened. But this is a switcheroo because this then becomes a fight between the three of them.
Yeah.
But Emily somehow ends up kind of on Lorelai's side.
Defending.
While Richard is fighting on behalf of Chris. Like, of course he's going to get married. Of course he's going to marry this girl because that's what Christopher would do.
Yeah. And it's interesting because knowing where we came from with it should have been Lorelai, you would have thought that Emily would have been kind of in Richard's corner, being like, yeah, you're the reason why the two of you aren't together, because if you just married him in the first place, none of this would have happened. If you had just taken him for who he was before he met Sherry, none of this would have happened. And instead, Emily is like, no, Christopher wants to be with Lorelai, and Lorelai
she
wants
almost
to be
fights
with Christopher.
harder for it should have been Lorelai, because Richard is like, oh, he's going to be a father. And Emily says he already is a father.
Yeah.
So fair.
And it
so
leads to
fair,
a fight
Emily.
between Emily and Richard on behalf of Lorelai almost. It's kind of between Lorelai and Richard because he's really laying into her. And then it becomes Emily stepping in, her kind of starting a fight with Richard, and then Lorelai leaves. But it does precipitate more conflict because we see it carry over into the next episode, into Haunted Leg, which of course is an incredible episode.
Because Emily turns to her and she says, Lorelai, you have to talk to him. Tell him you want to get married. Mm-hmm. And everything that Lorelai says to Emily then becomes a fight between Richard and Emily.
Yeah.
And this is when we have that switcheroo. And like Richard is just so team Chris that it's like so beyond Lorelai. And she's like, well,
I guess I'm going to
just
sneak
walks
out
out
of here. Yeah. She's
as
like,
they keep fighting. Yeah.
But I love what it leads to, like this tension in episode 2, Haunted Leg, in the cold open. Wow. I love how cold this cold open is.
Yeah.
Shauna Christie shot her husband. Well, at least she had a husband to kill.
She had a husband. I love it so much.
It leads to tension. It leads to tension that then leads to, once again, Emily kind of being like, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to swoop in and solve this problem because I'm fighting for you. Takes her to lunch at Luke's. And that leads to a bit of a fight between the two of them because she's like,
Emily talked to Chris on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She's like, and I know he does not want to be with this woman. He wants to be with you and Rory.
Yeah.
And she's like,
he
Mom,
didn't say it.
He didn't say it, but I know it's true. And she's like, Mom, you can't just do those things. And then Lorelai storms out of Luke's diner. She's like, I'm not doing this with you.
Do not get involved. Do not call Christopher. Walks out. Do not walk out on me. Walks out.
Walks out. And then, of course, it leads them to this dinner, Friday night dinner, where Richard is not present. And I really wonder how this would have changed the dynamic had Richard been present. But I kind of love that he wasn't there because it, of course, is kind of like there's no like the energy is a little lighthearted. There's obviously like a heaviness to it because the last time they saw each other, Lorelai was walking out of Luke's and leaving Emily there. And I think that there's still a little bit of intensity there, but because of the whole situation with the maid, ding dong, big bell, you know, it's like it brings that levity to it. Yeah. And then it precipitates a fight, of course, with Chris because he shows up and Lorelai's like, did you do this? I did not do this. And there's an intensity there, but it's not a fight between Emily and Lorelai per se. It's a fight between Lorelai and Chris that then leads to Emily once again stepping in and being like, Christopher, you need to leave.
And she saves it. She somehow fixes things. Or not fixes it, but like helps them get rid of the demon that just came in with his angry eyes on. I
really love this moment. And I wouldn't necessarily qualify it as a fight, but the Haunted Leg is one of my favorite episodes of season 3. It's such a good episode. It's a very underrated episode. Lots of conflict, but good, yummy conflict. And I really, really love the intensity of Emily's feelings about this situation coming into play here. But I wouldn't necessarily refer to it as a fight.
I would say the Luke's diner. That was like a bit of verging. That was like verging. It was in the midst. Like they never really fully got to the fight. It was like, don't get involved in this. And it's like they were angry at each other, but they weren't necessarily fighting. It was more of Lorelai was laying down the law after what Emily said she had done.
Yeah.
And she walked out. They could have fought, but
they could
I
have.
think that was
but
there was conflicting.
Yeah,
feelings.
For sure.
Yeah. But it was more of a Chris fight that Emily saved the day. And
yeah. So then I have kind of like a bunch of like baby conflicts that kind of comprise season 3 until we get to like a really big conflict. But I have 8 o'clock at the Oasis, the argument that they get into about Peyton Sanders and the date because of how it's going to impact Emily because she's friends with his mom. And she lays into her, she's like, you're so judgmental, Lorelai. Like, you never give people a chance. And it makes, you know, she kind of guilts Lorelai basically by the end of the episode into going into on this date.
They end up in the kitchen.
Yes, in the kitchen.
It seems like it could be a fight based on earlier because Lorelai walked out and she didn't want to deal with this when they were chatting earlier because she came over because their auction items got mixed up.
Yes.
And so she's recounting the date and how not even he enjoyed it. And she's like, well, you're just going to buck it up for a second one.
Well, you'll just have to try harder on the next one. I was like, Emily,
girl. And she...
read the writing on the wall.
Yes. And at the end, she talks about how they both felt like this was not going to be a good idea. But if she really wanted her to, they both being John Hamm and Lorelai, or Peyton Sanders, but it's John Hamm.
Of course.
For the sake of clarity for everyone involved. If you really want me to go, I'll go.
She's like,
thank you, Lorelai. You should wear a Rory sweater when you go.
Yeah. It's so funny.
But I wouldn't call that necessarily like a fight because it was like, it got resolved. I mean, there was a little some deep feelings.
It's conflict.
But Lorelai, despite not wanting to, Lorelai saw her side of it and acquiesced to it, which is unusual, especially given the next one.
But the next couple of conflicts really come from the same source, which is Rory going to Yale and what happens applying to Yale and what happens in Let the Games Begin, which is the episode after the dance marathon where they end up going on a trip to Yale with Emily and Richard. Of course, we all remember it. They're walking through the campus and reminiscing, and it's all really nice. And it seems like it's going to be a lot of fun. And then
Richard, about Penland Lott and the engagement.
Yes, the first mention really of Lenny Lott, that mouse. And it all culminates to this moment where Richard, behind everybody's back, set up an appointment for Rory to have a conversation with the Dean of Admissions.
Happened to be there. His friend has some time. He made an appointment and they are ambushed by Richard.
Yes. And it's really a fight between...
And not even Emily knows.
No. Emily was also blindsided. And so Lorelai and Richard get into this argument and it's really ugly. And Emily, in an effort to diffuse it, is chasing Lorelai down as she's trying to get a cab and leave because she's like, we're leaving. We're not staying here. I will not be here with you while you do this, while you try to like be the puppet master.
He lied to you. Don't you care about that?
Yeah. He lied to you too, Mom. And she's like, well, I'll deal with that later. Like, she is pissed, you can tell. I mean, by the end, when she's like, don't you even look at me. I love that line. But it does kind of precipitate a bit of an argument between the two of them where she's like, are you serious? Why are you not even considering this? I understand that you're upset, but take a second and breathe and think about the fact that like you're so hard pressed to keep Rory going to Harvard and to keep her away from all of the things that we've done that you've not stopped to think about the fact that if she went to Yale, she could live at home. Consider that on your cab ride. And it's like a little sassy and a little bit like, not necessarily a fight, but her being like, let me tell you why you're being absolutely ridiculous right now.
Yeah.
Consider that on your cab ride.
Yeah. The only reason I qualified it as a fight was because she talks about how she always wonders why her and her dad can't have a good relationship. And then things like this pop up and she's like, oh yeah. And Emily's like, oh, you're on a crusade against your childhood.
Yeah.
Richard's intentions were honorable.
Right.
And they're more so fighting about Richard.
Fine. Your father's a demon.
He's a demon.
So dramatics. Fine, Lorelai. Your father's a demon.
Yeah. And I do like that they're not necessarily fighting about something between the two of them. They're fighting about Richard and her relationship, Lorelai's relationship with him, and how Emily is kind of protecting Richard from that rather than protecting Lorelai from that, which is an interesting dynamic that we never really get too deep into of how they both treated her, how they tried to protect her from the other person, that sort of thing, which
Totally.
Would love a deep dive into Lorelai's childhood, but
Yeah.
I digress. But I consider it more of a fight around things. They're not really fighting with each other, but they're definitely not agreeing on anything. But
that's the thing,
Emily
is they're
serves
kind
her
of-
a little truth.
She does. And that's kind of what happens in the next episode, because, of course, the next in this trifecta of beautiful episodes in season 3, the trio that we love is a deep fried Korean Thanksgiving. And that's, of course, when there is some carryover of this fight. And it's really, again, a fight with Richard that Emily is a little bit stuck in the middle of. And because she, again, didn't know about this whole... And she's clearly, like I said, upset with Richard by the end of Let the Games Begin.
Because in this episode at this dinner at Thanksgiving at their house, we find out that Rory did apply to Yale.
Yes.
And all of the other people that are there are saying, of course, Chilton wouldn't let her just apply to Harvard. She probably applied to a ton of schools, but she did apply to Yale.
Yeah.
And Lorelai is really upset by this and just goes outside.
But it does kind of start when all of that comes out with her being like, Yale dad, really? Did you know about this? Like it's starting to become a fight between her and both of her parents. And Emily is the one to go outside and be like, it's freezing out here. Come inside. It's Jamaica compared to in there. And she's like, you won't let Rory have any part of us. You hate us that much. That word hate does come up again. And
because she says you can't let Rory have one piece of our lives, even if it's her choice. You hate us that much. Yeah. And it's interesting. It's her choice. It's her choice, Ace. We love. Yeah. But yeah, she keeps saying you hate us that much. And it's always something that like kind of like shocks Lorelai like a little bit of like, oh, I guess I do hate you. Like, or it's like, she's like, no, okay. That's not what I meant, but I think.
But that conflict never really gets resolved. I guess the resolution to that conflict is that Rory does choose to go to Yale, and Lorelai has accepted it.
Yeah, and
so that's why
we see that in A Tale of Pose and Fire.
Yeah,
fire. Tale of Fire. Just one. It's just the one.
Just
fire,
one fire.
Out. 2 pose, 1 fire. That she becomes. Okay with the decision as they recognize that it is the right decision for Rory. Yeah. She gets used to the idea.
And it's interesting because like it almost feels like the resolution to that conflict that we just talked about does resolve at the beginning in the cold open of Happy Birthday Baby. And by the end of Happy Birthday Baby, we really get our, like, in my opinion, big Emily Lorelai conflict of season 3, which is that Lorelai has repaid the debt that she owes to Emily and Richard using the money that Richard gave her that was legally hers. And it makes Emily so viscerally upset that the fight that they get into, which is also kind of a fight between Emily and Richard.
This one is kind of layered and complicated. It really is. It's Emily Lorelai, because Lorelai at her birthday, after she has they just sang happy birthday to her, decides to pay them back the money that they are owed for Rory's school with the money that Richard gave to her earlier in the day, or earlier in the episode, rather, that she thought that was going to be okay. Yeah. And the only person that feels like that was okay is Lorelai.
Like, even Rory is like, hey, you shouldn't have done that.
Hey,
that was like a really weird move.
That was a really weird birthday activity to have at your birthday party, actually.
Yeah.
Because
I've thoughts about that when we rewatched that episode together, because I really, like, in rewatching a little bit of it today, I was like, why didn't Lorelai say anything to her dad? Like, hey, well, why don't you keep this money? Because then, like, we'll be square on... And he'd be like,
talk about that in that episode?
I think we talked about the fact that, like, Lorelai probably just should have been like, oh, okay. Oh, I'm not going to do this.
Keep it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Because Richard was like, I told you not to tell your mom. No, you didn't. We met in the middle of the day at a coffee shop. What did you think I meant?
Yeah.
And Emily's mad at Richard because it was kept from her, that even though he was legally obligated to give her the money. And then Emily, it kind of just like washes over her. She kind of just like calms down a little bit.
Yeah.
She says, you're released with your obligations. Have a nice birthday. Have
a nice life. I'm going to bed.
Ooh. That's actually how I want to go to bed all the time. Have a nice birthday. Have a nice life.
I'm going to bed.
But she like, it's like a calm washes over her, and she's like, up. And this is a fight that is a different kind of fight. It's ice, ice, baby. It's a chill that washes through, too. Because, like, they are, quote unquote, released from their obligation.
Yeah, totally.
And they don't have to have Friday night dinner anymore.
And this really extends the conflict through the remainder of the season. You know, in Say Goodnight, Gracie, Lorelai finally calls Emily while she's gardening.
I love this look on her.
I love Emily, like Emily.
Little garden girl Emily.
Like
Emily
is my favorite.
Her garden Barbie.
That's what I'm saying. She's one of my favorite Emily Barbies. I love it. And I just love that she calls her.
Because we get garden Emily in presenting Lorelai Gilmore.
Yes.
At the end when she comes here and she's like, we can talk sometimes. And she's like,
all right. Out. Yeah.
Yeah. Different Barbie though.
Different Barbie. This Barbie does not want to talk to Lorelai. Garden Emily does not want to talk to Lorelai at all. So much so that she goes, may I speak with Rory, please?
Yeah.
And she's like, no, I called you. She goes, so? I love it. And this is definitely an argument, like a very heated argument between the two of them, because Lorelai is like, Mom, we had a relationship. Stop lying to yourself and to your mother. You did not have a relationship.
Yeah.
She's like, what was our relationship? You'd call me. You try to put Rory on the phone, even though she couldn't talk. And we talk about the weather. We talk about the DAR and like, okay, cool. So that's how it's going to be.
The weather's great.
Weather's
DAR
great.
is fine.
DAR is fine.
Can I talk to Rory now?
Yeah, exactly. And they hang up.
You said I couldn't talk to Rory.
Yeah, you already said I couldn't talk to Rory, so I guess that's it. And she's like, okay, Mom, fine, bye. Hangs up and then immediately calls back. It's for you.
Love.
Because I just envision her picking up being like, hello, can I speak with Rory, please? I just imagine it. But it leads to, of course, then the conflict in Here Comes the Sun when, you know, of course, Rory is still going over for, you know, she's trying to spend time with her grandparents because they're not obligated to do the Friday night dinner thing. As Lorelai says to her on the phone in Say Goodnight, Gracie, like, no, I took away the option for Friday night dinners. I didn't take away Friday night dinners on the whole. And she's like, your choice. But when Lorelai does come over to pick Rory up, when Miss Selena's there, love it.
Yeah.
They get into a little argument and it's a funny argument. It is
it's
one of those.
Avoidance.
It's avoidance, but I love that it does have some levity to it. She's like, yeah, you know, we have things going on tonight and then I have book club.
Book club? With the Thompsons.
What book? The Lovely Bones. What'd you think? It's not my taste, but
it was a nice attempt.
Fun. It's hilarious. And then like just the hilarity of like Lupe coming in and being like, it's 7:00. And she's like, well, dinner needs 40 more minutes. She's like, it's pretty brown. She's like, go make the salad, Lupe.
And the silence.
What? The salad's ready. Like, I just love it. And then Richard comes down.
Lupe.
Emily, it's 7:10. We have to eat dinner. Hey, Dad, Rory was going to stay for dinner. Oh, I love it. You just made a boring evening so much better. And Emily's like, you idiot. Stop.
Enjoy dinner.
Talking. Yeah. And it really, it evolves into this conflict of like, you know, Emily being like, or Lorelai being like, okay, see, told ya. And then Rory being like, I think you're being really stupid. And then never talking about that again and inviting her in the next episode to her graduation. But I digress. It really is.
Well, it continues on into 4, which we're not covering in this episode.
Yeah.
But that conflict kind of.
This conflict really simmers. And it, again, bleeds into 4, which we will save for the next episode. But
can I say,
I would say that like Happy Birthday
some
Baby.
Of them?
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
I think we missed 2.
Tell me.
Because
I had an honorable mention I didn't talk about, but
we popped from Deep Fried to with the Yale conflict at Thanksgiving to Happy Birthday Baby when it kind of comes back and she pays them, and that whole conflict kind of, I guess, like comes to an end because Rory is going to Yale and it kicks off a new one. let's close one off just to start one again. But I think one that kind of reminded me of something that happened recently in season 7, which is when Emily, it's when Emily plays the voicemail that Lorelai left for her, that her and Chris got married.
Yeah.
But in I Solemnly Swear, Emily's getting sued. And so Lorelai gets deposed.
Right. Oh, I forgot about this one.
She has the transcript ready for her to read.
I forgot about this. It's so funny.
And so I didn't necessarily qualify this as a fight, but it was fighting words.
No, it definitely is a bit of a fight. Yeah.
But it's like, it's just such a Gilmore fight because they're not yelling.
She's like, why not just tell you about it? Let's read it.
Let's read it. And so she starts reading it and she says, sure. Do I have a sarcastic sure? And she goes on and on about like, would you consider your mother is like a agreeable person? And they go through all of this and continue reading it. And it's just not
forgot
good.
about this. Because I don't love that episode because of all the Francie nonsense. So I kind of like blocked it out of my memory and I skipped.
I actually was going to say that because when we skipped, I was like, she skipped Francie.
I skipped Francie because, I just can't stand that conflict. But that is the shining star of the episode, of course, is the deposition.
Yeah, they're not fighting, but she is listing off all of these horrible things that she said about her mother. And she said, I said some good things about you too. Oh, well, let's revisit the transcript. Like, it's like so funny, but it's like awful at the same time because it's like, this is legally binding. This is going to affect her. Yeah, exactly.
Hilarious.
And then the other one was, of course, Dear Emily and Richard.
That's what I had down as my honorable mention. I said the flashback fights.
Yeah, because what's so fascinating about that one in general is just that in the present, they're not fighting. They get into like a little bit of a tiff going back to Chris and Sherry.
Yes.
Because she was like, why are you going to the hospital where that woman is?
Yeah.
Because Rory asked me to.
Yeah, she's
and that
like,
kind of
going.
Yeah, that kind of put the kibosh on that.
It's a bit of a disagreement, but
yes,
I was more so I more so zeroed in kind of on the back and forth between them in the flashbacks.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like in the present time, the only time that they have kind of a conflict is that moment. But for the most part, the present timeline, they're fine.
Easy.
Like things, and that's the juxtaposition that we're looking for, is that like things have like simmered down as time has passed, but in the past, things are bad, particularly when she's going into labor.
But it's just so fucking funny. I wrote, what about the flashback fight in the hospital? Iconic.
Yeah, when she says, "Dear Mom and Dad, I'm in labor. See you later, Lorelai." You say, "Excuse me, Mom, I'm having a baby. Give me a ride to the damn hospital." I just love it. You say, "Excuse me, Mom, I'm having a baby."
Yeah, I love that they're wheeling her in to the delivery room, and she's like, "All right, but we are not finished having this discussion." It's just so good.
She's like, "You can't come in here."
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
I'm like, why? Because we're at the delivery room.
Yeah. Ma'am, this is the delivery room.
That's how Rory came into the world.
And that
love it.
Is
on the edge of a fight.
Born. Yeah. So
which makes sense.
What is your top conflict? Because we didn't really like sit with it in season 2. We really determined that top conflict for us in season 1 was Rory's dance. But what about season 2 for you?
I think that season 2 has to go with Hammers and Veils.
Same. I completely agree. And then
how
do you feel about... I really
love There's the Rub. Like, I love what that does for them and like what's revealed. But
great
the
conflict. Fight... Yeah. No. The fight itself is Hammers and Veils. What about season 3?
Season 3 was a little bit harder just because it was like they were less... the intensity was kind of lost. It was a lot more like smaller things. I'm not sure. What is yours?
I think for me, it would be Happy Birthday Baby. I want to say like the lazy, hazy, crazy into haunted leg conflict.
Yes.
Like it's almost the way that I would say that the conflict of There's the Rub is very, very important and very like nuanced and crucial to their relationship. But the fight in Hammers and Veils is the one I would choose. And I feel like the conflict in Lazy, Hazy to Haunted Leg is like really meaty, whereas like the Happy Birthday Baby fight is kind of like it takes the cake, no pun intended, for me.
Yeah, and I think that in part because earlier in the episode we had kind of resolved a different fight, because I think that other than Happy Birthday Baby, I really just loved their interaction in Let the Games Begin. I think that even though the fight isn't as, it doesn't have the depth of the fight in season 1 or season 2, which I don't think that Happy Birthday Baby necessarily does either.
No.
But I think in terms of importance to the plot, that one really takes the cake this season. I just really love the scene work between Kelly and Lauren in Let the Games Begin, when like Lauren's on the phone, Kelly's doing that yippee puppy thing that we have determined in this episode.
Yep.
And your father's a demon. And there's just something about it that like, that fight is so interesting because it's less about them and more about everything that's going on around them, which we rarely get. I mean, they're so mad at each other. But,
totally.
But I just love think about that on your cab ride.
I know.
It's a nice little button to it. It's not
a button.
It doesn't have the levity, but like has that impact that is Lorelai's not going to have to consider that maybe she doesn't want Rory to go all the way to Cambridge. It's not a fast ride as much as they consider Boston super close.
I know. So weird.
As we found driving from Hartford to Boston.
Yeah, it's true.
But yeah, I think
we're on the same page. Yeah, because like that fight really does put a lot of the conflict. It kind of like brings everything full circle of like, okay, you don't need our Friday night dinners anymore, which is how this whole show started. So now the show's going to be over, Lorelai, and it's all your fault.
Don't you know what the point of this show is? Yeah. Without Friday night dinner, what do we even do? And I think that's a really interesting idea going into season 4, that like this is now the conflict that's simmering, because in the next episode, of course, we get Rory reinstating Friday night dinner, but it's only with her. And so we kind of have this rollover conflict into season 4 which I love. Like.
It precipitates a really great fight between the two of them in season 4, episode 1. And so I'm excited to talk about that. But of course, we yapped so long about seasons 1 through 3, which I knew we were going to. So we had to make this a 2-part episode. There is
dense conflict. Yeah,
it's true. And we'll have more to say on that in the next episode.